आला रे आला IPL आला
Okay, so we are here to talk about IPL, and it's the new season is on the horizon, and I couldn't be more excited, and I'm sure the people who are watching us also feel the same way. So Raunak, the first of all, I would like to ask this: how different do you think this IPL is going to be? Because of course, last time also there was a bio bubble in UAE, but what's different for me this time is the different venues in India. More venues than UAE, and also Mumbai playing in Chennai, for example, Chennai playing in Mumbai. So all the teams have these different dynamics now in terms of venues and the squads they have. So how different do you think it's going to be, and is it going to be more interesting because there's no home advantage or there's no home ground or something like that?
I actually think that by virtue of having this assortment of venues, it would make it's a harder IPL to predict.
Yeah.
Last year, if you would have told me Chennai are playing in Chennai, Delhi are playing in Delhi, I would be able to tell you better whether I think this Chennai team is good enough, because then you're looking at the IPL differently.
Yeah.
MS Dhoni has done that as well. If he knows he has 7 games in Chennai and 7 games elsewhere, he's aiming to win 5 out of his 7 home games, and maybe nick 2 or 3 on the road. That in its way to qualify for the playoffs. So if you're telling me Chennai are playing in Chennai for 7 games, I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Then they make for a much stronger case. But I think it'll be a much harder IPL to call. The one thing that is easy is that Mumbai Indians will still be a very formidable side, because nothing's changed last year, and they have a team that's good enough to win anywhere. So I hope that for the sake of the IPL, that there are teams that challenge them more. But again, it's just a juggernaut of a team, and they'll have a point to prove, because a lot of this squad is going to get broken up next season ahead of the big. So I do see Mumbai as the team to beat as always, which is no surprise.
Okay, so tomorrow is the first game of the tournament, and we couldn't be more excited. India captain versus the most successful IPL captain, India vice captain Rohit Sharma versus Virat Kohli. Raunak, how do you see this game panning out? First thoughts: Mumbai will roll over this RCB side, or will they have some competition?
No, I mean, it's always going to be tough in a new season. You never know what to expect. I mean, we all know this thing of how Mumbai don't start well. They take time. Let's not forget they lost the first game of the last IPL as well against Chennai, who couldn't buy a win for a while after that. So Mumbai tend to take a little time to get their juices going. And at the same time, RCB were always a team that go into each IPL with so much expectation, because they're never a bad team, but they end up playing poorly. And they end up, well, I would say they're not a bad team, because they have too many world-class players for them to be called a bad side. What they do end up having is similar problems. And that eventually is a result of maybe a little, maybe not enough work in the auction tables. And if I look back at the last auction, am I satisfied? Honestly, I'm going to have to say no, because Chris Morris was released by this side after he had arguably his best possible season. So Chris Morris was with them at 10 crore. And they actually released him back and were willing to go up to 9 crore for him again.
Yeah.
They went, I think, in that range. So I guess they were stumped by the fact that he was going for that much more. They thought they'll get him back regardless, but they shouldn't have released him.
Something they did with Yuvraj Singh back in the day.
Yes, absolutely. And I found that move even more baffling, is because that is still an acknowledgement that position is still not filled. And they were willing to go up to 14 crore and eventually got Kyle Jameson for it. Right. So that was the one issue that I have with them. Jameson is unproven in this format, let alone in the IPL, because he's never played. He's also unproven in these conditions, and there's a lot of pressure on a price tag of that amount. So I feel for Kyle Jameson, it may not be the signing they're all hoping for. They did a pretty smart trade in Daniel Sams, I thought, because he's also become a bit of a batter, a dasher down the order, but there are still question marks on his bowling. And, so there are still the same problems for RCB. Batting is strong. It's even stronger with Glenn Maxwell. I know he's never been, an IPL success, but that's not to say that in a team like this, who's not dependent on Maxwell, it may work fine. Because Padikkal was a standout player last year. Kohli opening is a big move for them, because that's the best place for Kohli to play in RCB and certainly in T20 cricket as well. So AB de Villiers is still AB de Villiers, and Maxwell is not someone they're dependent on. He's only there to add to the muscle of that already pretty strong batting lineup. So Maxwell was a good signing for me. I won't talk about the money because it doesn't make sense.
Okay, yeah. Let's not talk about his money. But because he had such a poor season last time, he couldn't hit a six. He had, I think, 108 runs in so many matches, and then when he played for Australia, he scored those many runs in 2 innings. So in IPL, just apart from that one 2014 season, why do you think teams go behind him blindly? They're ready to pay any amount of money.
I don't think it's a good thing at all. The other thing is, here's the thing with Maxwell. He goes for big money, he doesn't do well, and he goes back into an auction. But he is one of the few people in an auction that go in with that sort of game-changing ability and reputation. The other thing about Maxwell is maybe a shift away from Punjab to a different franchise will help.
Yeah.
That just he's been at that same place, all this chit chat, and that magnificence that Maxwell showcases is there for everyone to see in between two IPLs. He was brilliant against Australia in the India-Australia series. So the player is still there. You just have to find a way to get that out of him in the IPL. So who knows?
Yeah, and I think personally, more than Maxwell, I'm very excited to see Finn Allen. Recently, just a couple of days ago, he lit the stage on fire against Bangladesh. I think got a 18 ball 50, if I'm not wrong. But again, same problems, batting heavy, and then the lower middle order is vulnerable. And so, how does your 11 look here? What do you think?
Uh, so the thing is, Virat Kohli announcing that he's going to open makes life a lot easier, because otherwise you were wondering, would first Josh Philippe and then now Finn Allen, would they get a game, But I think Padikkal and Kohli will be the opening pair, and AB de Villiers at 3. So there is room for one Indian batsman who I'm guessing will be Azharuddin to start with, given he had that T20 innings and they picked him up for a reason. And there's no real other alternative that's staking a claim as an Indian batsman to play in that team. So you got Padikkal, Kohli, AB de Villiers, and Azharuddin, Glenn Maxwell, Washington Sundar. Then it's a bit of an interesting one. Jameson or Christian is I think the call they'll make, because I think they'll start with Daniel Sams. He's a left armer. He offers something different, and he can bat a bit. So I think Sams will be in their 11, and then you've got Siraj, Saini, and Chahal as the 3 Indian bowlers that will certainly play. Jameson would get the nod, you'd think, because of the high price tag they paid for him. Again, it becomes very hard for franchises to justify picking players at that kind of money only to put them on the bench. So you'll see what you can get out of Jameson. If he has an impact, great. If he doesn't, you can bring in Christian. And between Sams, Christian, and Jameson, eventually they'll have to pick 2. So I think that's the way they'll go. These positions are all sort of open. You can always bring in Adam Zampa for Daniel Sams if you want to play the extra wrist spin option. You can also bring in Kane Richardson if you want that. So that's some flexibility they enjoy. I don't see Finn Allen getting a game just yet. And all that is subject to the most important thing that Bangalore did last year, which changed their season, which was have AB de Villiers keep wicket. So if that happens again this year, that's the team you're offering. If AB can't keep wicket, then automatically you need to bring in Finn Allen. Your whole permutation and combinations change. They do have an Indian keeper, but I don't see K. Bharat walking into this side unless someone else is willing to take the gloves up in that team, which is unlikely. So I think AB should continue keeping. The franchise should demand that of him, because that just adds a completely new dimension to that team.
I'm a big fan of Kane Richardson because in the last couple of years he's doing a good job in the middle overs. I was looking at a stat, he bowls more off-cutters at a lesser economy than anyone else in the middle overs. Something what Plunkett used to do for England. And he was originally in the squad last year as well and then had to go for a leave. So do you think if they go with Maxwell, AB and Kane Richardson as their three foreigners, then the fourth one would be of course a toss-up between Jamieson, Christian, and of course Daniel Sams. So, based on that, do you think they would look for a bowling all-rounder or a batting all-rounder in that space? Because I think their batting is brittle, so that way Christian has more of a batting pedigree than all these 3.
Yeah, I guess that's the question that you have to ask of RCB. Are they actually more confident of their bowling with Siraj and Saini along with Chahal and Washington Sundar? And then and I think the answer to that is you're not quite sure, because Siraj still has a lot to prove in T20 cricket.
Yeah.
even though he's had a great year in Test cricket the last few months. And Saini also, is not quite in the league of Shami, Bumrah, or Bhuvaneshwar, because you want that strike bowler, to deliver for you. So if that's the case, then I agree, Kane Richardson may be the better wicket-taking option. And if you're going to play Richardson and you're going to have Washington Sundar still bat at sixth, then you have to ask yourself, what do you rather have? Would you rather have the batting of Christian along with one of Jameson or Sams, or would you rather have the better bowlers? Because Jameson is a better bowler than he is a batter. So too is Dan
But
Sams.
do you see him as a T20 bowler because his credentials are not that great in T20 as Test match?
Absolutely, he has a lot to prove. But he is a bowler who can bat rather than a batsman who can bowl. So that is something that we have to wait and watch with Jameson. And I've said that at the beginning, I'm apprehensive. I don't think this price tag is going to help for a very talented cricketer that he is. So we'll have to find out.
Even if we ignore the price tag here, like the recently concluded Australia series, he didn't have a good time over there against the Aussie batting lineup. So just on that particular note, I was thinking maybe there is a space for Dan Christian at 6 and then Washington at 7 because of the experience also Christian brings and so many titles he has won.
True, still a good player. Dan Christian had a good big bash. I actually think Washington Sundar should be trusted more as a batsman. So, regardless, and if he is given more opportunity as a batsman, you may not need Christian the batsman, right?
Okay.
There's a very good chance that they will play Dan Christian, especially given Maxwell's volatile form. And if he has Christian as well, then again you can let Maxwell do his thing. And if he doesn't make it, you still have Dan Christian, but you're allowing for Glenn Maxwell to have more opportunity to come off and hope he comes off. So yeah, it's like I said, I still think they're missing a gun bowler and they haven't replaced Chris Morris in a like for like. Kane Richardson comes back, but Kane Richardson also is not your reliable every game bowler. He can be taken apart. So my concerns around RCB's bowling remain this season as well. So
same concerns: death bowling and the lower order batting after the top 4. So your predictions? Where will they end up this season? I don't have them in the top 4.
Not in the top 4 for me.
Yeah, so finally we agree on another team. And now the nemesis, in the first game, Mumbai Indians, I think there's very less to talk about them because their first 11 choose themselves. They walk into the 11 any day. So I think I'll just put out my 11 and I'm sure a lot of people and you will say that it's the same for me. So Rohit and Quinton to open. And 1 down you go to Surya Kumar, 2 down Ishan Kishan, 3 down, 4 down, 5 down Pandey brothers and Pollard, and then you go to your bowlers in Bolt, Bumrah, Chahar, and of course Nathan Coulter-Nile. So I think that's the same for you.
I'm looking at Coulter-Nile's position in that team, and the only sort of concern that I would have is he's not the bowler that he used to be. And Adam Milne is actually bowling really well of late. He went for a few in that recent T20 against Bangladesh, but Adam Milne looks a serious option. He's quick. It's always that one place that Mumbai can have a crack, right? That one seamer that they can try whoever, and let's see who does it. So Pattinson and Coulter-Nile shared that last year. And I would be tempted to start with Adam Milne, again, for the same reason. I don't think Coulter-Nile is going to play 14 games for you. He can come in depending on conditions, if need be, the experience is there. But Milne could have a bit of X factor about him. So I'd start Adam Milne as the seamer that, can play there. And other than that, the team is pretty straightforward. They can always swap around Jayant Yadav and Rahul Chahar depending on the opposition and conditions. I thought they've done a really good job to get Piyush Chawla too, because that was the one question mark. If Rahul Chahar has an injury or if he loses a little bit of confidence, which I don't see happening. I think he's actually been one of the quiet contributors to their success because he's always done a job as a wrist spinner, even though he can go for a few runs on any day, but any bowler can. So Chawla is a good reserve wrist spin option for Rahul Chahar. So again, solid team. The only consideration is which overseas fast bowler they pick to accompany Bolt and Bumrah, and I'd start Adam Milne.
Coulter I said only because of the batting abilities he has down the order. And another interesting signing was Marco Jansen. I don't know much about him. I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
What would they have seen in him?
Marco Jansen's a left armer, so he would come in as a like for Trent Bolt if they do find. So what Mumbai do really well is they get guys who are almost direct backups to the first 11, right? So Jimmy Neesham is a direct backup to Kieron Pollard. If Pollard gets injured, if they need an all rounder, there's Neesham. Similarly, Jansen for Bolt is what they're trying to get, an understudy in case you need a left armer. They've done that with almost every position. Chawla for Rahul Chahar was that thought process too.
Yeah, thank you for correcting me. I couldn't even pronounce Marco Jansen correctly. So a lot of people can't. The only weakness which I see here is the spin department. As you said, they have signed Piyush Chawla, but Krunal as a T20 bowler, against quality batsmen, you saw 6 overs, 72 runs in the ODI against England. And Rahul Chahar is still relatively new, right? So maybe that is the only probable weak spot you can see in this 11. Or maybe the death bowling, who will bowl with Bumrah?
It's been a concern for a while. What are their spin reserves? But they manage it just fine. They've been successful, so there's no reason to believe that they need an orthodox spinner to change their fortunes. And it's not like there are many in the camp. Jayant Yadav has done an excellent job for them whenever he's been called upon. He played just one game in 2019 and turned it around against Chennai. And then he played again in 2000 last year. He played towards the playoffs and played the final and had a great game. So Jayant Yadav is a solid off-spin option they have. They have Chahar and now Piyush Chawla. And they've got Krunal Pandya, who doesn't need to bowl his 4 overs every time. And bowling 4 overs is a lot easier than bowling 10. So he's got AB de Villiers a few times. So he has that, so things happen in T20 cricket. It's a lot easier I would say it's a lot easier for a bowler with limited skills like Krunal Pandya to manage as a bowler in T20 than it would be in ODI. So Hardik Pandya didn't bowl, for a large part of last year's IPL. And if Hardik Pandya is going to bowl, Kieron Pollard is going to bowl, you may not always need Krunal Pandya to bowl his 4. So I don't see that as an issue at all.
Yeah, and my question on death bowling, who you think will bowl with Bumrah? Because Bolt is not a death bowler specialist.
Yeah, it's a hard place to bowl. Hardik Pandya is becoming a increasingly, evolved death bowler. We saw that in the 49th over of the last ODI against England. He assesses conditions well. He tends to do well to outthink and outsmart the batsman. So I think that could easily become an option if the games get close. But I do think someone like Adam Milne with his pace could be a real handful for them. How they use them is anybody's guess, but don't rule out that between Milne and Coulter, whoever gets the nod will certainly have a role to play with Bolt and Bumrah at the end.
If at all you had to pick one team or two teams who could really challenge and play up to the level of MI, maybe your guesses might be DC and SRH, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, Delhi Sunrisers, and like I said, I always have there's always a concern that KKR, not a concern, but a belief that KKR could be a team that can just get off on a real red hot streak if their overseas players fire. So that's the other one for me. And I've said CSK can come close to that. But if you have to honestly ask me to qualitatively pick out top 4, I would say MI, DC, Kolkata and Sunrisers, with Chennai very close to that. And then the rest.
So this was fun, Raunak. The whole week we did these episodes, short analysis on all the teams, and I hope you had fun.
With my IPL prep as well.
So yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And tomorrow IPL is kicking off. I'll join you guys again on my channel with somebody else, and of course you can find Raunak. You all know where to find him during the IPL, and we'll probably have another chat with him post the IPL now, if time allows him. And so thank you so much. Take care and keep watching.